Welcome to the podcast Design Your Success, the podcast where human design and business meet. Every week, I will drop a new episode with an inspiring guest who shares his or her story about their business and how human design has fit in and how it has made a change for them. My name is Nicolene Huizinga. I am your host, and I am a business mentor and human design coach. Have fun listening. Hey, you guys, welcome to another episode of the Design Your Success podcast. And I am thrilled to welcome my next guest, who is amazing at a gratitude challenge, who is wonderful at keeping many balls in the air. And welcome, Anna Stando.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here and talk to you again.
Yes, it's been a while, right? That we spoke, but it's so lovely to talk to you again, and I love that you applied to be a speaker here. So,
Yes.
Before we dive into all the wonderful things that you do and how that relates to your human design, I would love you to introduce yourself first to our listeners.
Sure. Yeah, so you started mentioning a little bit what I do by saying that I have a lot of balls in the air, a lot of balls in the air, and that's absolutely correct. I am multi-passionate who loves learning and who loves sharing every idea that I find particularly interesting and important. So this means that it led me to teaching. So I am on one hand a coach, trainer, workshop facilitator on topics of gratitude for mental health, appreciation at work, but also because of my previous career on the topics of gender equality and inclusive leadership. And I even have an online course, which is all about learning how to tap into the power of gratitude for better mental health and for more resilience. And it's called My Gratitude Challenge. And then on top of everything that I've already mentioned, I also do team days that focus on the topic of appreciation at work while using Lego serious play. So we're playing and building with our hands while we are talking about what drains us at work, what motivates us at work, and and how can we show that we value one another in a way that is meaningful to our colleagues.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I love Lego serious play.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly. So I also have a family. I've got 2 little toddlers and a partner, and I volunteer as well. So life is never boring.
And the great thing to complement this all is that in human design, you are a projector, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this is going to be interesting.
Yes.
Because, normally when I speak to people who have so many different balls in the air, who are so multi-passionate, are usually manifesting generators. But you're a projector, so I would love to dive into that, but we'll save that for later. First of all, I would love to hear how you started your business.
Yes, so it has been a long time in the making, to be honest. For many years, I've been reading about successful entrepreneurs, and I found their stories super inspiring and interesting. And I was thinking, how cool would it be to really have something on my own? But I never really felt that I had a good idea, or really what would I do to start with. So it has been a very long journey. And ultimately, a few years ago, I got tired of telling myself that I'm not creative. And I looked for proof that it's actually not true. And I started to experiment with few business ideas, side hustles, just on a side when I was still working in a corporate world. And I realized that I really, really loved it. It was just so much fun to design my own products and services, try to market them, learn all about that machine that is necessary to make a business successful. And the results were encouraging enough for me to say, okay, maybe if I put a little bit more focus into those side hustles, they could grow into something more meaningful. And at the same time, people started to reach out to me to do trainings on the topic of inclusive leadership, and then also later on the topic of gratitude. So I think that's very much aligned with my design strategy of being invited to,
Yes.
yeah, to share what I know. And that meant that, you know, the first experiences with the side hustles, the feedback from my online program, my gratitude challenge, which I designed 2 years ago on maternity leave, and then went back into my career, and with the invitations to start to do some trainings, I felt, yeah, I was ready to dive and to see um, how that's gonna go. And that was last year in the summer.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm still relatively fresh, let's say.
Yeah, but still, when I listen to your story, and you know, we've spoken before, it's really an interesting journey, and I love it that um you really followed your design, your strategy, by being invited, by being recognized as an expert, and then you started creating things. Another thing that I love what you said about the thing that you thought you were not creative. I think we really tell ourselves these crazy stories that we are a certain something and we are not a certain something. I always told myself that I wasn't creative either,
Mm.
but I am very creative.
Yeah,
But
you
that's so
are.
weird. Yeah, that's so weird, right? That we tell ourselves the stories because you know, I cannot well, that's another story I'm telling myself. I cannot really draw. So when I draw something, it's very
Mhm,
hard to decipher what it is. But I'm very creative in many other ways. So, and I think that's so important what you just said is that first of all, you challenged yourself on
mhm,
the question, am I not creative? Well, let's find out. And then, second, there are many faces to creativity, as
mhm.
there are many faces to any other topic. So I think it's really important that people challenge themselves on the thoughts that they have, because the thoughts they have are not necessarily true. Well, I think 99% it's not true. So it's intriguing that you challenged yourself and found this new way forward.
Yes, I think I was very creative as a child, in so many ways. You know, writing, being an actress, um, and you know, just playing, and yeah, there was just always something happening. Poetry writing, novels. You know, it was fun. But then somehow you go into work, and then you don't use that creative side of you anymore in that sense,
Yeah.
right? You may come up with creative solutions to problems, to business problems, and so on, which is equally important. But the other side is kind of a little bit lost, is my experience. So I needed to, you know, nowadays I'm also not in a theater. I do a little bit of writing, but somehow my mind opened up a little bit to even come up with more creative business solutions to whatever is on my plate, and you know, creating services, products, and so on. So
Yeah.
much fun. And maybe one more comment as well about what you said about tapping into my design and following my strategy. I must say that it was very unconscious because I didn't know
Yeah.
those things
Okay.
at the time. And only somewhere, I think, last year, we started talking a little bit about it. Somebody else also introduced me to the topic, and I started to see how those things, yeah, how they actually make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is still so much more work for me to do, I think, to really truly live my design. But I found it
Yeah.
comforting to hear that this can really work
Well,
in this
you
way.
know, the thing is with living your design, first of all, it takes a lot of deconditioning first because we pick up on a lot of stuff that we get when we grow up. So we try to fit into a mold that we think is, well, is around us. And sometimes it is. So we're forced to do things, and that takes deconditioning. So
Mhm.
that takes time, and the general deconditioning process takes 7 years. And that's what I always tell people when we get introduced to human design. It's, it's a journey of a lifetime.
Mhm.
So, and because as a human being, there you have so many layers in your personality, and it's the same with human design. There are so many layers in your design, and of course it starts with your energy type, being a projector. Then you have your own strategy, you have your authority, your decision making process. Then you have your profile lines, you have your open and defined centers, you have your incarnation cross, you have your defined and undefined gates and channels. There are so many layers to us. It's impossible to know stuff and to study stuff. And I really think that human design it's a strategy for life,
Mhm.
and you'll find out over time. And of course you will step into the same pitfalls over and over again. I know I do, even though I know a lot about human design now. But I still initiate sometimes, while all I need to do as a generator is wait to respond.
Mhm.
So yeah, and it's human, and that's
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. So I know about your creativity, because in your application you said something about selling stuff without even having a website,
Mhm.
and I think that is incredibly creative, and I love that because so many people think like, oh, but I need a logo, I need a website, I need a solid strategy, I need anything. Perfectionism
Mhm.
is high among business owners, but you started selling stuff without even having a website.
Yeah, that's true. I started selling my trainings without a website. So I do have a website for my gratitude challenge, because that was kind of necessary from the beginning to tell people what it is all
Yeah,
about in detail and for people to purchase the product on
yeah,
the spot.
yeah,
But when it comes to my services and trainings, people often, they reached out, they wanted to know more. We would have a conversation, and then I would say, okay, I'm going to put it all down on paper. So we have a workshop outline.
yeah,
So we just ended up with literally one pagers, with the workshop descriptions and the workshop outcomes and a little bit about me. And that has been enough all the way until now. So for the last, well, almost 10 months now, this is how I've been growing my business. And I am building a website now because I think it's time. I
yeah,
want to have it. I also have enough to put on the website. I also have, clarified in my mind over the last 10 months what is exactly that I am offering. And if I build a website and straight away, thing would have evolved and changed, and maybe would have been even more painful.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm happy to be doing it now.
yeah,
um, yeah, but it was absolutely okay to
yeah.
start teaching, start getting customers without. Who would have thought?
Yeah, but I think this is so great, especially for people who are listening now and who are procrastinating because they think their landing page isn't great, or their website needs work, or they need, perfect images for social media. You can sell without
Mm.
having a website. Oh,
Yeah, because I think ultimately the first customers that we always get are people who know us.
hmm. True.
They might not know us very well, but they have had some interactions
Yeah,
with us. So we already carry some sort of personal brand with us, who we are as people. Are
yeah,
we nice to work with? Are we, approachable? Does it seem like we focus, we know what we're talking about? And, that's often enough for people to say, okay, I have a good feeling about that person. And now apparently they also do this or that.
yeah,
This is what we need. Well, let's give it a go.
yeah,
So I think it's far easier to get the first customers, especially, and later I don't think it really changes that much. is when people know you as a person rather than going online and making a search and then hoping that among the millions of websites that they're going to end up on your website.
Yeah.
So I think it starts with the personal connection,
Yeah.
trust, and then maybe when they need to advocate on your behalf internally, a flyer might be enough. If
Yeah.
somebody is really looking for a lot of social proof, and needing to know that you are established business owner, then of course sending a website as well is going to help to convince somebody else who doesn't know you.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's important to have it as well, but it does not need to be the first
Yeah.
thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's dive into your journey a bit more. What kind of struggles did you encounter on your way to become the entrepreneur that you are today?
Yeah, this is a big question. I feel that on one hand, I have had not, a really, really big struggles, like, I don't know, my warehouse burned down or something like this, and I had to overcome, this thing, and start my business all over again. I think for me, the challenges that I'm facing now is really the challenge with focus. What is it that I'm doing? When am I doing it? Being my own boss is fantastic, but it's very easy to waste a lot of time. And I've been catching myself doing that. So I have now, really systems in place to help me to be better with my time. And one of the things that also is always coming back is the imposter syndrome, of course,
Mm.
right? Am I really good enough to teach about a certain topic? Am I good enough to get that big amount of money for a short time that I am actually teaching something? And I hear those voices, and I have been learning about imposter syndrome for a very long time. So I hear it and I recognize it, and I just say, okay, hello, imposter syndrome. I'm gonna do it anyway. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful that it doesn't hold me back anymore, but it still shows up.
Yeah.
And when it shows up, I it often is enough just to say, I'm going to do it anyway. Let's see. But if I'm, particularly tired, for example, didn't sleep enough and everything seems heavier and more difficult, then I may look for some confirmation that I am actually good enough by reading some of the wonderful recommendations from people who have taken my gratitude challenge, or from my corporate partners that have written me, great recommendations, really, to give myself a little bit of that. Yeah, see, look, okay, it might not be perfect, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
It's good enough it gives value
Yeah.
to the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what comes to my mind straight away when
Yeah.
you talk about
Well,
challenges.
what you said about the imposter syndrome, I think we all have our own saboteurs, our own limiting beliefs that we have. I mean, I can fully resonate with the "I'm not good enough" one, even though many people who know me were very surprised when I started talking about that. Like, oh, but you always seem so confident. Yeah, seem
Takes
seem
work. Yeah.
confident. That's exactly the right word. And what I've learned over the years, because I've really been diving deep into those shadows and those limiting beliefs, they won't go away. They
Mm.
will pop up when you have the imposter syndrome as your main saboteur. Um, it will come up. It will continue to come up, but you will learn how to deal with it in an easier way. And then you spot the imposter syndrome easier, like, oh, yeah, there he is again. And instead of fighting it, it's like embracing it and welcoming it as a good friend, because every limiting belief that we have is basically a reflex to keep us safe.
Mhm.
And if we can see it for what it is. Like, okay, so the imposter syndrome, like, oh, who are you to be talking about this? It's a way to keep you safe. And I think it's really important that we realize that that's the case. It's not like a negative thing or the universe playing a dirty trick on you. It's just a mechanism to keep you safe. And when you look at it that way, I'm like, okay, thank you, but I'm safe. I know enough. And especially when you look at yourself, you're a projector. Projectors are the ideal guides, and they are like a lighthouse for
Mhm.
people. And that's your role. That's what you do. So so
No, you're
whenever
right.
the imposter syndrome comes up, it's good to know, like, okay, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I'm a lighthouse. I'm here to guide people. I'm here to show people the way. That's why I'm here. So thanks, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes. And the bright side is that it gives me motivation to prepare better for whatever
Mm,
it is that I have to do. And I personally, I found it very reassuring when I know that I am well prepared.
yeah.
Yes, and I know a lot of the imposter syndrome actually start because I feel like I don't maybe know enough, or we still brainstorming of what exactly is it that we're going to do. But the moment there is, there is a plan, and the moment there is a deadline, always very motivating for me.
Mm,
Um, and then I dive into the preparation, and as I am preparing, my confidence normally grows.
yeah.
Uh, yes, and obviously, if I felt super confident from the beginning, who knows what the outcome
Yeah.
would be. All right. So every time I'm diving into a task, even if I'm doing a training on the topic that I've been doing multiple times already,
Hmm.
I'm always learning something new. I'm always becoming,
Yeah.
a little bit more knowledgeable about the topic, which then adds that, a brick on the brick on the
Yeah.
brick.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I find that very useful too. I have a one in my profile.
What does that
And
mean?
well, the profile line is basically the role that you have. And I don't remember your profile lines, to be honest, but that would be really interesting to have a
I
look
think
at.
3 and 5, could that be something
Yeah,
like this?
yeah,
Yeah, I
could
think
be.
one was really about um, really learning, accumulating knowledge.
Yeah,
The other
exactly.
one
Yeah.
potentially about being a hermit and having the tendency maybe
Yeah,
to
that's the
retreat a little
two.
bit.
That's the
So that's the
two.
two. So maybe, so I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, so
And you have
maybe,
the three, and I have the three too. And the three is all about testing, experimenting, trying, failing, getting back
yeah.
up again. And that's what, well, we have the three in common then.
Yeah,
But
I'm not 100% sure. So,
yeah, but it could be.
so
It could
yeah,
be.
maybe.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
could be. So the three is really interesting because it gives you the courage to experiment and to test and to try. And I'm sure the one is somewhere in your profile too, because it's all about, gaining knowledge and
Mhm.
getting a lot of security
Mhm.
from the knowledge that you have. So that's really interesting too. And many people can relate to the elements of their profile lines when we discuss them. So it's so useful to know this about yourself. And I love it that you really did some digging into the imposter syndrome, because the more you know about it, the easier it is to spot it when it threatens to hold you back, because
Mhm.
you can also turn it around and use it as fuel. Like, okay, I know this is my theme. For me, the theme is I'm not good enough. Not so much the imposter, but really I'm not good enough. I should deliver more. I should give more. And when I spot myself and I catch myself doing that, I'm like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. There it is again. There it is again. Don't do that. Don't over deliver. There's no need. There's no need, because when I want to share it all, people get overwhelmed and then they will be like, I had enough.
Mhm.
So that's really important. Yeah. So tell us about you being a projector and having all these balls in the air. How do you do that with your energy? Because energy is an important element for a projector, especially,
The lack of energy, I mean.
well, the non-consistent flow of energy, I would say.
Yeah, the non-consistent flow of energy. When I read about it, I felt like, yeah, this is really completely spot on. When it comes to me, I can go on for a very long time with a lot of energy, and then I'm just very tired for prolonged period of times. There can be a week that I really feel like really not really feeling energy. I always confuse that as well with motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling maybe that, feeling that I should be working harder, of course. I knowing that there is a lot of things that I could be doing if only I had the motivation slash energy to actually execute on those things, and how beneficial they would be for
Yeah.
my business.
Yeah.
So of course there were times in my life where I completely, I went over my limits.
Mm-hmm.
I um I luckily I've never been burned out or anything like this, not even close, because I do have a very strong sense of self, how you call it, to preserve myself,
Mm-hmm.
really. So I, whenever possible, I will always take the down time.
Yeah.
um and over time I have learned to take that every single day, rather than only when I really feel is too much. In one of my previous jobs, I was around people who were just non-stop. It was incredible. I was admiring them. They're like, so much energy, so much passion for their jobs, day and night. Honestly, they would be on it. And I was just there sometimes thinking, like, I just can't keep up. This is like, and also then at one point I was like, I don't want to keep up, actually, because working all that hard meant that I was missing out on some other things
Mm-hmm.
that were very important to me as well.
Yeah.
I very much believe in that fact that you should always be putting your own oxygen mask first, and you have to take care of yourself if you want to take care of other people.
Yeah.
So this is really helping me as well. I know that I need a lot of sleep, and I am not getting it. I have two little toddlers, and the last 4 years have been very, very difficult to me when it comes to operating on not enough sleep.
Yeah.
So it means that, and at the same time, having children also really helps me to close down work, because they need me and I need to be with them. And
Yeah.
okay, it does not necessarily always mean that it's super easy and super relaxing to take care of a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
but it means that I close my laptop before dinner. We spend some time together. I put them to bed, and honestly, after 8 o'clock, there is not so much. Most days, there is not so much I can still do.
No.
So it's, yeah, I take time to wind down. I go to bed. I love listening to audiobooks. I listen for a long time, actually, before going to sleep. Relaxing in that way. And then over the weekend, I think so many people can just continue working. And of course, on some weekends, I do work a little bit as well. But having a family, having somebody depending on me, it's helping me to get out, to move, to play, to laugh, to do silly things,
Yeah.
and relax. And it means that, yeah, it's been actually very helpful to stop working in the traditional
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
It forces
and
you to be efficient, right?
yes, it forces you to be efficient. It forces you to be better with setting priorities, and
Mm.
it teaches you to say no
Yeah.
uh, as well. So yeah, it's been very, very good
Yeah.
in that sense. And of course, it's challenging because on so many days you feel like in the evening I'm still going to do this and that, and then you can't, and
Yeah.
you might be annoyed with yourself. Sometimes I feel like, oh, why am I so lazy? But yeah, I'm getting better with this, and then knowing the next day actually nothing happened. Maybe I'm building my business a little bit slower than I could have,
That's all
but let
good.
it be. It's a marathon, right?
Exactly. It's definitely a
So,
marathon. It's not a sprint. And especially for projectors, you need more time. You need more time because you need more rest. And but still, when you are in full alignment with your design and you get recognized and invited, things could move really quick.
mhm,
But it's so
yeah.
important to not force things into existence and to force things on people like, oh, but I know this. And when
Mm,
people don't recognize you, it falls on deaf ears and it's not
mhm,
going to happen.
mhm.
So it's really important to honor your design. I love how you do it, with making very clear choices on, okay, this is what I want to be doing. I'm going to stop working at a certain time, because physically it's impossible, but it's also not the best use of your time.
No, and over the last years, it's been freeing in a way to say
Hmm.
as well that um, this is just who I am. I feel like the projector is kind of, winning in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Because when you are living it really in your alignment, and I'm not there yet, but as you said,
your
7
work in
years. I know,
progress.
I know about it since a year only, so I've got 6 years to go.
Yeah,
But ultimately, you just resting a lot, you're doing a lot of things that brings you joy and energy, you're learning about the things that you are passionate about,
yeah,
and in the meantime, people just come to you and they ask you to work with them.
yeah,
So, yeah, I feel that's how we all should should live, right? It should.
yeah,
I think it's a
absolutely.
wonderful idea that it can be that easy. Yeah, the execution is harder because of the conditioning and
Of course.
it's yeah.
Yeah,
But I'm totally buying into the idea that this how the business actually can grow and operate, and how we can be successful in our lives and happy, right? And
yeah.
happy in
That's the
with
most
what we have.
important thing, right? That's the most important thing. So I checked your design because I still had it. You're a
Ah,
5-1. You're a five
okay.
one projector. So you do have the one in your profile.
So one is the
One
learning.
is the one about the knowledge, about
Mhm.
gathering knowledge and getting a lot of security from the knowledge.
And
Uh,
five.
and the 5 is the visionary leader, and the 5 is the fixer, the helper. It's a person who always has an idea, a solution, and is incredibly helpful towards others. And it's the person, well, the title in human design for the profile line 5 is the visionary leader. So you
Mm.
do have a vision, and um, you are the kind of person that people look up to, like, oh, but she knows best. She always has an idea. And you do. As a 5 in your you always have an idea and a solution.
Yeah,
Um,
now I told myself I'm a little bit more creative than I believed that in the past.
yeah,
That indeed, ideas. There is no shortage of ideas, but I think it goes back to the challenge that projectors have, right? As you say, we may want to contribute and help and come up, share our ideas, but if people are not ready to listen to them yet, then it's
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
waste energy. So yeah, I'm also better now, I think, with knowing when, I may, if somebody comes with a challenge, may start conversation, but very quickly I know, is it worth it or not? Is it better to let
Hmm.
them go their own
Yeah.
path? And maybe when they're ready, they will come back and we will have another conversation on that
Yeah.
topic.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what would you say is your pivotal moment in life, in business, that really got you on the track that you're now today?
Uh, Pivotal moment in my business. I think so. One of the side hustles that I had was really the one that gave me a lot of encouragement. So I learned how to build a website. I set up an online store, import a product, and before I started that, it all sounded very difficult. Like I had absolutely no ideas how do you do those things. And when I started to do it myself, I realized that oh my goodness, there are so many fantastic systems in place. We really now set up for doing an online business. It's really not that difficult, and you can do it everything on your own if you want to.
Yeah.
And I wanted to the first time because I wanted to get a little bit of understanding of how it all works, how difficult it is, and so on. And it kind of demystified everything for me. So actually, it's not that difficult.
Not
And
that
then
hard.
selling online as well, I felt like, it's not that it was incredibly successful or anything like this, but there were sales, like for somebody who was really not knowing anything that they were doing and still, it was possible to sell. It was like, oh my God, if you actually have a little bit more knowledge about the systems and the marketing and sales and have a product that is something what people are really looking for, then yeah, it really can work. So I think that was like the biggest aha for me. That is like
Mhm.
it's not so complicated, it's not so difficult, it can work. And now, of course, it's now maybe the challenge that comes back to a challenge and the challenges that we were discussing. I think one of my challenges is tapping beyond my immediate network. I think
Mm.
I've benefited a lot from my network,
Yeah.
and now it's really learning about scaling the business. How do I, bring in new audiences into my world is something that I feel like okay, now I really need some more professional help
Yeah.
with that topic. So this is coming.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, well, as a projector, to give you some unsolicited advice,
I
I
take it,
can't help
please.
myself. As a projector, it would be really good for you when you want to tap into other people's
Mhm,
networks and audiences. Guest speaking
mhm.
is one of the best things to do because they recognize you and invite you to be a guest speaker, and that is your best strategy, as you know. Another thing that could be really beneficial for you as a projector is to collaborate with other people who have similar audiences. So you
Mhm.
can be like an associate coach or a regular guest a teacher in for their audiences. So that's your, I would say, your easiest way to grow your audience.
Making notes, yes.
Yes.
No, but you are right, and I think we have been following each other, learning from each other for the past year. So of course
Yeah.
I have seen you speaking about it. I believe in it, and also when you send out the form asking people to inviting people to apply, I
Yeah.
thought that was my invitation indeed to apply to speak.
Yeah.
Uh, and to discover new audiences as well.
Exactly. And then it's so much easier. So we definitely need to talk about that
Yes.
because let's get you into front of other people's audiences. That could definitely be interesting for you. Yeah. So I'm not selling or pitching anything, but
No,
just,
no, no. That's
to give you some advice on
yeah.
that.
Thank you. Yeah.
To wrap up this wonderful conversation, because we could talk for hours,
Mhm.
but to wrap this up, what three lessons did you learn, or what kind of advice would you give our listeners? What is it that you took away from your journey so far?
Mhm. So I'm going to come back to something that I've already shared, which is putting your own oxygen mask first. I very much believe in the power of self-care.
Yeah,
If you are a projector and necessary, it's necessary. If you are a different type, of course, it's important for all of us. And yeah, that is something that I keep coming back to. Um, and and another thing that I have really learned that I have benefited from is being visible. And that means being visible, on social media or speaking, being a guest somewhere. And it's challenging, I think personally for me as well. It's not necessarily the easiest things that comes to me, even though I do it often, and people sometimes are surprised that I say I admit that I sometimes struggle with it because there is this fear of being visible, right? There is this fear of how you're going to be received. Are you going to be good enough? Are you going to be interesting enough? Do you have something interesting to say? There is a fear of bragging, coming over in a, in a wrong way.
Yeah.
If you have something to sell, that is, of course, can cause a lot of different, limiting beliefs to flare up.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey. It has cost me an effort to be visible, and I am not doing it yet, I think, the perfect way. But what I want to leave the listener with is that even if you do it in an imperfect way, if you just show up even once in a while, you will start seeing the benefits from it. And
Mm.
if you can get into some sort of regularity, then really this is a great way to to grow your business.
Yeah.
And that comes hand in hand with my third advice of building your network before you need it.
Mm.
And yeah, I think then for me as a entrepreneur who is less than a year in business, I think the network that I've been over the last years has been the biggest support, the biggest help. Just the variety of people that I know meant that there were enough listening ears to hear what is my offer now and how I can help them to achieve their objectives.
Yeah.
And you need to nurture the network as well. So it means that you need to be visible. You need to share what is it that you are doing and what
Yeah.
you're working on and what you're thinking about. So you're really top of mind when it comes to one topic or another.
Yeah.
And that can be really for social media, but also from guest speaking, your own newsletter, very important as well, of course. But yeah, I am still on the journey as well of doing all those things, taking care of myself, being visible in a consistent way, regular way,
Yeah.
and then nurturing my network in a meaningful way. Yeah, it's a process,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing the benefits.
Oh, absolutely. I love the lessons. I love the lessons. They are so incredibly important. And they're equally,
Mhm.
all of them, all three of them are incredibly important. I love what you said about the networking aspect as well. Many people find it hard, and especially projectors generally find it hard because they feel like, oh, I want to be involved, but I can't, and I need to be invited. I need to be recognized first. But there are many ways to navigate that strategy and to get involved as well. But I think it's crucial what you shared here. So I think your story is just a wonderful story of creating while you're doing it and showing it with the world, and not
Yeah,
waiting.
learning by doing.
Yeah, but not waiting until things are perfect before
Mm.
you start sharing anything. And I
Yes.
think that's incredibly inspiring. So keep up
Mm.
that amazing work, because you're inspiring people even without you knowing it. But as a projector, you are, the guide, the natural guide, the natural lighthouse for many of us. And just share
Thank you.
that without hope or agenda. Just share that, and you'll inspire people, and you will become the magnetic person that attracts the right people automatically.
Thank
So
you.
yeah.
I do have a question for you. Uh,
Yes.
so I I've noticed that for me as a projector and networking and energy and so on, what worked very well for me is to actually be an organizer of an event and then being, on stage, talking to people and then being quickly then recognized by the 100 people who are attending an event,
Yeah.
rather than going to 20 different events and talking to 5 people and building my network that slow way. But I wonder what is your take on it? Because that means really initiating rather than waiting for an invitation to do something. But has worked really, really well for me.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great. That's just great. So the only thing is with initiating this what could, and because it's not the case that you cannot do it.
Mm-hmm.
It costs you a lot of energy. It
Mm-hmm.
could, especially the organizing bit, that
Mm-hmm.
could cost you a lot of energy. And when I look at your design, you have a defined heart center, which means that your willpower and determination is
Mm-hmm.
consistent. So you could easily mistake willpower for energy. So when you organize something like that, you could continue on willpower, but if it's not what you expect it to be, then it could be very draining at some point. So a great way around that could be to organize things together with someone,
Yeah, that's what I
because
do.
what you do is
We are a team.
you work around the theme of inviting. So
Mm-hmm.
by inviting others, you invite yourself to
Yes.
to be on stage, and then you get automatically recognized as the expert, and that's, so you're kind of, I would say, forcing, between air quotes, the recognition,
Mm-hmm.
by organizing it yourself. And it's always, it's, I think it's a common misunderstanding that people think that, oh, you cannot do that as a projector.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but it costs you a lot of energy, if you don't mind your energy. So the best way around that, to navigate around that, is to collaborate with someone and organize it together. And then you're absolutely good to go. But to use the word invitation consciously, that's very helpful for a projector, because
Mm-hmm.
by issuing the word invitation, and by issuing the invitation, you invite yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
There's
interesting.
a lot of
Thank you.
magic in those words.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to be sharing all your details in the show notes, so people will be able to find you and connect with you, reach out to you. And I highly recommend that they do, because you're a lovely person to be around, and inspiring, and you have great ideas. So do connect with Anna, and thank you so much. And I really look forward to continue our conversations and to following one another. So thanks again, and talk soon. Thank you for listening to this episode. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. So please let us know and subscribe so you will never miss a next episode.